Hey everybody, Roxabox90 here with another top 10 EDH Commander card countdown. Today we're going to go through the top 10 EDH Commander cards from Khans of Tarkir, and we're going to follow the same criteria we usually do for the most part, which is that we're going to have, this is a multiplayer list, not a 1v1 list. 2, that we're going to focus on cards that are specific, and then as we go towards number 1, they get more universal and more universally applicable. And let's hop in with honorable mention. So first up, Empty the Pits. This card is really fun. I like that it's instant speed. I like that it makes tons of zombies. Instant speed is the big deal here, and the delve should be very easy to get off for a crazy amount in a deck that hopefully is running lots of zombies and aggressive. Or worst comes to worst, it turns your control deck into a monstrous endgame wave of zombies. I like the design. I think it works well in Commander a lot. Flying Crane Technique, not going to see play in a ton of decks, but in the decks that have its colors and want to run some form of aggressive build, it's quite powerful, I think. Grim Harrisprex is nice. It's kind of weaker than other versions of it in the format, and for that it's a little bit weaker by definition, but at the same time it's also a very strong utility card and we'll probably see some play. Dragon Throne of Tarkir is a house card that will be definitely more casual, but could be very fun and cause lots of blowouts in aggressive built decks. Keru Spell Snatcher. This card is interesting because it's usually morphs will signal to your opponents that you're running something very powerful, and so they'll try to deal with the morph ahead of time before you can really unmorph it for its effect. But this card seems to be quite insane, being able to recast that spell the whole game. It's just a very strong card. Cackling Doom. This card is more powerful, I think, in constructed formats that are not EDH, but in the EDH, being able to hit every single opponent's biggest creature, forcing them to sacrifice, which is huge deal. For 3 mana seems quite good to me. Keru Lichlord, a little random, but at the same time it's a strong card that I think could be a lot of fun in more casual builds. Dune Blast, again, this is multiplayer based, and Dune Blast is definitely a Voltron focused Wrath, but it's so much mana, it kind of is caught between two worlds. We'll see someday, I think, but I don't think it's nearly as powerful as many other Wraths in the format. Sorin, Solemn Visitor, and Sarkhan, both Planeswalkers, are, ironically enough, I think pretty weak in the Commander format. They both are built, I think, with the standard modern constructed mindset and not going to be all that powerful in most Commander decks. Zurgo is a little bit on the weak side, even as a 7/2. I think for 5 mana will be an interesting aggro Voltron card, but I don't necessarily love him outside of that. Sidisi, limited to the types of decks that can work with her, and she'll have to be built around very heavily. Siege Rhino, this card I think could be really cool, especially if you can flicker it in and out of play, but as a standard card, it's much more powerful. And the Fetch Lands and Tri-Lands I'm going to leave off the list completely because I think that while they're powerful cards, they've already been printed for the most part before, and their design is pretty much the same as what we've had in the past, and so I want to leave them off. Let's get to the list. Number 10, we have Narset Enlightened Master. I think that she is a surprisingly powerful commander. I think that the hexproof leaves it open for someone to build around getting her haste and her evasion and not have to worry about protecting her for the 6 mana. And I think she reminds me, because she's on the attack, she reminds me of Jaleva, the recent printed commander card that is incredibly powerful on the attack as well. Very different ability. This one I like that even if you don't necessarily hit nothing because you have more control over what you get, whereas it's less likely with Jaleva that you'll have that same level of control. They're both very interesting cards, and I think she'll see some good play in commander format. Surrect Dragonclaw at number 9. Wow, he's a big beater that'll go into beater-like decks, but to be honest, as a Voltron, he doesn't protect himself, and his abilities, while they're nice, preventing counter and giving trample, they're not nearly as game-breaking as he'll be in a more standardized construct environment. He's a solid card that we'll see play in certain kinds of decks, and that's really all there is to say about him. Number 8, Villainous Wealth, one of the most powerful cards, and arguably I think my personal favorite on this list, or one of my personal favorite, top 3 probably, on this list is Villainous Wealth, but the problem is that the decks that run it, there aren't that many Sultai commanders in the format, and most of them would not really focus on this card very much. I think it is a powerhouse blowout card that we put in more for fun than for the style the decks are built around. in terms of more competitive play. But of course, for casual EDH, this card is going to be really abused, and for a lot of fun. I think it'll be a very strong card in the format. Number 7, Rattleclaw Mystic. It's limited to its colors, but it gives you an explosive burst for Voltron. It gives you an explosive burst regardless. The morph cost you being colorless is fantastic, and the fact that it's a very strong utility. It gives you your 3 colors on a very cheap creature. I think it does good work even in the Commander format. See the Unwritten. This card is surprisingly powerful. I haven't playtested it, but I'm pretty sure this card is going to be amazing. It reminds me very much of Tooth and Nail, except it is cheaper, which does matter, and will likely go into a heck ton of decks because it is a monocolor card. Will be very flexible and a very strong card in the format. Number 5, we have End Hostilities. Normally Wraths are just Wraths, but this Wrath is quite good, especially in a format where tons of equipment and tons of auras exist. Being able to blow up all the permanents attached to those creatures could cause huge wipeouts, and 5 mana is completely reasonable for this kind of Wrath. It is fantastic. Number 4, we have the Charms, and I'm not considered equal because certain charms are better than others. The Sultai Charm and the Abzan Charm are much more powerful than the others for this format. They just give you more of what you want. All 3 abilities on both are very relevant to the format. The other ones are a little less so. They're better in constructed environments and cube, but here I think that Sultai Charm and Abzan Charm are particularly flexible and powerful. Both of them are very, very strong, and all the charms are strong for their flexibility as a concept, some more than others. Number 3, we have the Ascendancies. The Ascendancies have the same issue where some of them are better than others. Jeskai Ascendancy and Timur Ascendancy and Abzan Ascendancy are all very, very strong cards, and the reason I put them above the charms is because the Ascendancies stay in play. They're enchantments, which means they give you the long-term advantage. They don't have the same flexibility per se on the instant run, but the fact that they are very flexible for a number of strategies and that they sit in and give you a longer-term advantage, I think will make them a little more powerful to run in the format. Number 2, we have Utter End. This card is huge, being a instant speed Vindicate. The 4 mana does not matter in this format. It is a ridiculously powerful instant speed removal spell, and usually I don't recommend having a lot of removal in decks, focusing more on Wrath removal rather than spot removal, and this card is definitely spot removal, but it's just so flexible and so powerful that you just gotta run it. And number 1, yep, you all knew it, and it's happening. Clever Impersonator. This card is you, or you opposing it, or whatever is opposing it. Artifact, enchantment, planeswalker, creature, you name it. Any permanent that's not a land, this card can become for a simple 4 mana, which basically means any deck running blue in existence will consider this card. It is just that powerful, and it is so flexible. What gets more flexible and better than that in a format where you require flexibility and hopefully long-term shenanigans? This card is just absolutely unbelievably crazy, and I'm sure the foils are going to be quite tough to get, definitely speaking. So on this list, I definitely think it's going to see the most widely spread play in the most number of decks. That's just that powerful. So that's my top 10 EDH commander list for Khans of Tarkir. I hope you guys enjoyed. Tap that like button if you're looking forward to seeing more top 10 lists and the pre-release primer coming to you really soon. If you're new to the channel, check in and subscribe. As always, Roxabox90 signing out. I'll see you guys next time.